Because to me, that's priority number one of a long-term poker site, is ensuring that the games are safe and fair. Like, what are we doing? If you can't do that, why are we here?
In the age of AI, right?
Exactly, absolutely.
All right, Behind the Shuffle, episode 2, off and running. I'm your host, Adam Schwartz, alongside online gaming legend Warren Dabowski. Warren, let's do another one. We did episode 1. That was a lot of fun. We talked to Victoria Lifshitz from Octopi Poker and talked a little about some of the darker stuff. I wouldn't, quote unquote darker, but some RTA, some security issues. She had some really interesting stuff to say. So if you haven't heard that episode, head back to episode 1 and catch that one. Really interesting, sort of from the online gaming operator side of view. What to do with RTA and how to beef up security for online gaming. So that's a good one. Today is going to be a little lighter. We're going to talk to some online poker players about what motivates them to play at a specific site or actually play online poker at all. Warren, looking forward to this episode.
Yeah, it's going to be really good. Get an opportunity to talk to some online poker players, legends, and live poker players, and find out from their perspective what is important to them, and kind of how their journey has been in online poker so far.
Yeah, and I think the online poker landscape, such as it is at the moment, there's this continual progression towards player friendly software that responds to the needs of the players in an ever changing environment. I mean, the online gaming space through your career lifetime has changed immensely, and it's sort of how the online poker operators can adapt to all the different things that are happening.
It's come a long way since the early 2000s. I think it also stalled along the way for various reasons.
Sure.
Government regulations that came down and kind of stunted the North American market. And now it's picking up momentum again. So this is the perfect time to be talking about what could be done to improve online poker even.
Yeah,
and
awesome.
Just to continue to evolve the game.
Right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to bring in an online poker legend, and his name is Jaime Staples. He's been streaming and playing online poker for quite a long time. I'll let him give you the breakdown of exactly how it is, but I know I've been following Jaime for quite a long time, so he's not new to the game, so to speak, and he'll have a great perspective on what the online poker player looks for in a site when they sign up and how that's changed over time. Jaime, welcome to the program, sir. Thanks for joining us. Much appreciated. I sort of alluded to the fact that you've been an online gaming legend for quite some time. Give us a sort of a quick outline. I know you could probably talk for quite a long time about how your accomplishments and how long you've been playing, but sort of give us a bit of a background on your career.
You're too kind, Adam. I started listening to you probably 14 years ago.
Wow. Now I'm old.
With
now
some
you've just
of your
aged
legendary
me.
podcasts. Very much an intro to the game for me. Yeah, so I started playing poker when I was 18, 19. Started playing for Play Money Online. I'm 34 years old now. Quickly took a liking to it. I wanted to be a professional golfer growing up, realized I wasn't going to be Tiger Woods. And then boom, poker showed up and it just filled that void for me in my life and that competitive outlet. So yeah, I've been playing full time since I was about 19 years old. And first 4 or 5 years of that was just strictly poker, mostly tournament poker was my focus. And then I found Twitch and streaming, and I started making poker content, started making videos on YouTube, doing live streams, and that really took my career in an additional direction that informed a lot of my play. So that's the broad background, and excited to chop it up here, guys.
Nice. Give us a quick idea of what your perspective is on sort of the online poker site itself and how that's changed in 15 years that you've been playing. So some of the things, the challenges that operators run into. You're a ambassador for Party Poker. You've been for quite some time, so you sort of have both ends of you understand both sides of the coin here. So maybe give us a little bit of an idea of what you think about that.
Sure. Yeah. So the first 4 or 5 years, I was unsigned by anyone, and then I did about 3.5 years or so with PokerStars. And then I'm now with Party Poker for 7 or 8 years, I think. So it's been quite a long time with Party Poker. And all 3 of those stages were very different in regards to what I got from like the poker industry. Purely as a player, I remember thinking, oh, I just want those big guarantees. I want those big prize pools. I want this to be cool, right? Like had a very limited view, I think, of what the experience is of playing. And of course, this was, pre-Black Friday and just after Black Friday. It was a very different world. The marketing of poker was Chris Moneymaker-esque of like, oh, anyone can do it, right? Anyone can do it. You can play your $3 tournament and you can turn it into millions. I think we live in a very different environment nowadays where we have millions of mobile games that are all entertaining. We have Netflix, right? Like poker was the best thing on the internet back then. I don't know if that's true anymore. It's competing with a lot of stuff. So yeah, working with Party Poker now, I think our focus has been different in that we're trying to focus on who we do service and who we do operate with, trying to be the best at what we do with those people. But it's not as broad as it once was pre-regulation, the Wild West,
Right. What do you think is important to the new users coming into poker? So targeting some of the beginning players, the new players who haven't seen poker before necessarily. Maybe they play some home games online, or not online, but home games, and now they just want to dabble with online. Like I feel like online can be a bit of an introduction to the game or training ground for
well,
for
and Jamie's Twitch streaming, I'm sure he gets a lot of new players, right? Probably asking questions about different aspects of playing online.
Yeah, I think that's a really difficult question because the groups are so split, right? The regular sort of core player that's been playing like myself for such a long time is so different than the brand new player. There's such a big gulf there. So to create something that can service both groups is really challenging. I really find it important to cater to the new player. In my head, I think the onboarding and player journey experience is like the most important thing for online poker's future.
So walk us through what that looks like to you. If you're building an online poker site right now, Jamie, and with all your experience and with all your knowledge, and you wanted to build that onboarding program for new players, what does that look like? That's different maybe than's happening today.
So I would look to mobile gaming. I think I wouldn't really look at any of my competitors because I think the whole industry kind of sucks at this, to be frank. And when we play mobile games, I don't know if you guys play, but I, waste about an hour a day trying to level up my character and, upgrade my castle or whatever. These are very simple sort of mechanisms, but the point of playing is to progress and to grow and to level up and to evolve and unlock new content and reach these levels of achievements. Online poker, predated that sort of progression of gaming.
Right.
And I don't think we've added it or it's been incorporated into what it is that we do. So to me, it's important that we build that sort of ecosystem and structure around the actual beautiful game of poker that it is, right? Because for people to get to a place where they might want to play in the World Series of Poker, right? Or play some of these big events or become part of the poker community, it's going to take a couple months of being guided to get there in a world where we have TikTok and we have Netflix and we have 1,000 other options in the App Store that are interesting.
Mm-hmm. That is interesting. I think you touched on a couple of different things there. One being that there is potentially, I think when you're talking about rewards and sort of leveling up, the equivalent of leveling up, obviously in poker, leveling up, you sort of track your success by money and get entry into tournaments, whatever. But I think you're talking about other intangible, maybe not even monetary rewards as well to keep the experience alive. Is that accurate or fair to say that when you're saying look at other mobile games and what they're doing, that there is intrinsic value in some of that game mechanic?
Exactly.
As well?
Yeah. That's how I feel. I look at some of the the free rolls or the rewards where you give, pennies back on the dollar to new players, to me, it always sort of felt really ineffective. And when I play some of these other games and other people play games, they work hard to achieve things that have no monetary value whatsoever. And that's just a no-brainer to me. If you could make 10 final tables and then you unlock a certain felt that is displayed in your profile, and you want to earn that, to me, that's a much better reward in that it costs development money and a graphic artist, right? And it's much more interesting than receiving 30 cents back. So I want to see that sort of thing developed, I think, for newer players.
So is there a disparity to that player that wants the felt color, wants the avatar, wants to unlock all those new sort of things while he's playing for money, right? So is he distracted by the fact that he's playing for money rather than focusing on these other things? Or, I guess I'm curious about the motivation to actually play and win and deposit and, from a site's perspective, generate rake, et cetera, when he's more concerned about sort of the avatar. I realize he's going to be creating or generating rake when he's doing that, but maybe not on the volume or moving up the ladder or what. I'm trying to understand how to marry those two sort of goals.
Yeah, I think gating content behind progression would be important. In my mind, well, a lot of discussions I've had is about newer players and sort of protecting their ecology, right?
Right.
Ensuring that they don't sort of turn over too quickly, they don't have too negative experience and they're gone. So I think gating some of that new experience in games that are not accessible to people that aren't in the sort of introductory path, and or the games are too small, makes sense. But they can unlock those more prestigious and those higher rake environments once they've sort of been onboarded into this community where it's something they're interested in. You see that, I think, in a lot of other games as well, to where the actual game launches 3 months after you start.
Yeah.
But you have this whole journey to get to where, this is where everyone's actually playing. This is now the strategy. This is now interesting. I'd want something like that, I think.
It's kind of, I guess in a way, then it's kind of marrying the educational component, sort of using those intrinsic rewards and the motivation to get a new felt color or whatever it might happen to be, avatar.
Yeah.
And then encouraging them to learn more about the game and improve their skills as you're giving. So you're motivating them with something like that, and then eventually they're going to get skilled enough that money and prizes and profit
become more important to them. Yeah, I think I've been playing Clash of Clans for 10 years or something. Yeah, I've never spent a penny on it, but I've, to your point, Jamie, probably waste half an hour a day while I'm doing nothing, trying to win a battle or two.
There's kind of a direct parallel in poker too, where some sites, big ones, will give out free money to play with, and I know somebody who's done the same thing as you, but in poker, and he's built up a bankroll of a few $100s from 25 cents.
Never depositing.
So, but he is the product because he's creating liquidity doing that. There's still a lot of value to the operator there, and until he does something like make a deposit, I don't think any of that bonus money can even be withdrawn.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Jamie, what about getting and enticing somebody to make their first deposit? So this player to your fictional Jamie's online poker site signs up, creates an account, checks out the lobby, and maybe we'll talk about that in a minute, about sort of the UX and the UI of a lobby. But depositing, getting that player to deposit, whether it's $10, whether it's $100, whether it's $1,000. What do you think is sort of the best way to go about motivating that? And is it through that sort of gamification as well, or is it just strictly here, come play some tournaments?
I think the gamification would work well once you sort of developed a community, but to get to that point to where people try out and you develop a community, you would need some other conventional marketing tactics, I think, as most games have. My Instagram and TikTok is filled with game ads. Every 4 or 5 that I swipe through, I'll get a new game ad. So something like that, I think, makes sense. In my head, the thing that makes poker interesting, and therefore I'd want to lean into it, is the community of poker. It really isn't like any other sort of game in the gaming umbrella, in that it's really about people coming together and interfacing. And like, yes, there's this money part of it, and there's this ego part of it, and there's all this stuff. But at the end of the day, it's people coming together. And I think I'd want to lean into that in my marketing because it's what makes it cool. It's what makes it interesting.
So creating a community around new players, and using that as the motivation for the player to get involved is what you're saying.
For sure. I think poker is such a cool thing in a post-pandemic environment. Like, it's really hard for people my age and younger and a lot younger to find people they can chat and hang out with, right? Especially in a lot of the large cities nowadays. It's difficult to make community and make friends. You have to, put in a lot of effort. Poker is an opportunity to do that with people in that you're coming together, and no matter where you come from, what your beliefs are, you're speaking the same language for a second. So that's an opportunity, and I'd kind of lean into that, I think, in regards to getting the marketing going.
This kind of leads, I think, more to tournaments, right? So we have cash game players, we have tournament players, the whole community, and I know you love tournaments specifically, but it seems like it lends itself to tournament play rather than cash game play. Might be a different challenge.
I think it is a different challenge. I don't understand the cash game guys. I really don't get it.
That's me.
It's so dry to me. I love the excitement of tournaments and the ups and the downs and the brutal pain and the glorious victory. It's such a more fun environment for me, but I think you are exactly right, Adam, that it's different player pools. Cash games is much more based around this sort of like micro battle of like, can I win the money right now at this moment? Whereas tournaments are much more for glory and bigger, longer arcing tales. So definitely something to consider. I can't say I understand cash game players well enough to touch on it more than that.
So when you're playing and experiencing community, so is that externally through something like Twitch? Like that's where you've got the community and the chat happening? Because back in the old days, we used to play desktop and we'd always be chatting at the table with the players. And then, of course, some players get toxic and whatever. Finding a way to incorporate community and online poker, I wonder if how intertwined they are within the client versus, streaming like you do very successfully with Twitch and building a community like that. Would it be...
How do you interface that?
Yeah, I guess. And would it be attractive or to players and or streamers like yourself to have that somehow embedded more tightly within the online experience itself, the online client?
I think being discoverable is really a huge opportunity. So like that's definitely going to be advantageous to people that have communities and want to grow their communities. I think they'd love the opportunity to do that.
So that's probably, sorry, Jamie, to interrupt you, but I think you stumbled on something there where that discoverability is almost more important than integrating it into the site, because people will then come to the community to build that presence. And through that presence, Twitch, YouTube, whatever it ends up being, something else in the future, that promotes the game and the site outside of the environment of the site, right? It doesn't need to be integrated.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm trying to think about most games that I play, no matter what the game is, the community lives outside of the client most of the time.
Yeah.
It lives on Reddit. It lives on social media. It lives in chats with your friends.
It doesn't live in the interface at all, right?
No.
Yeah.
No. And that would add a lot of overhead and a lot of difficulty and moderation. And, I think making it easy to take the components of the game and share them in these communities, start the discussion, is probably what I would focus on, I think.
Yeah, that's interesting for sure. What type of security issues do you think, both yourself, so maybe this is two answers, what do you look for in an online poker site versus also a new player? So when a new player comes in, they don't have a lot of the knowledge. They don't understand what bots are. They don't know what RTA, real-time assistance, is. They don't understand all that. So maybe they have a different answer to what they look for, as far as, I think they're going to be, he's going to tell his friend at the table that I've got aces, whatever. That kind of basic concern that all the newbies are going to have versus, your concerns.
So I think the pro concerns are real-time assistance, one player per hand, people getting help from other players and stuff like that. And game integrity departments, at Party Poker, we spend a lot of money per capita ensuring the game is safe and fair. Because to me, that's priority number one of a long-term poker site, is ensuring that the games are safe and fair. Like, what are we doing? If you can't do that, why are we here?
In the age of AI, right?
Exactly, absolutely.
Yeah.
The new players' concerns, like you said, usually are not what they should actually be concerned about, but they are their concerns nonetheless, right? Which is, this is rigged against me. Like they're rigging it for someone else, right? So ensuring, like, hey, no, here's our RNG. We have no incentive to do this. We want to just create a fair game. This is your selective perception. How do you get the player over that hurdle of having that uncomfortable feeling of losing an 80-20 4 times in a row and thinking that the world is against you? That's just part of poker, right?
Yeah.
We've experienced it, the three of us.
Yeah.
But how do they get to know that? I don't know. I don't know if that's something you can do as a provider.
That's the transparency issue, right? And we were talking about that earlier. And in the current environment, I don't know that we have enough transparency from the online poker sites. I understand why. It's been a long sort of approach for online sites to, don't worry about it. We take care of it in the background. And that's true in some instances, and it's not true we've seen in other instances, right? Like we've definitely run into operators who say everything's great, but it isn't. So there's that level of trust that we all have to have, that some site is telling us they're taking care of it, when some of the bigger sites of course are, but some of them aren't. And given the changing environment, especially stuff now changes week to week, how would you like to see the transparency going forward from the online poker operator side?
I think you nailed it. I think it's important to sort of communicate what's going on. I like focusing on the things that the core, regular, high volume users talk about. But then also the game integrity departments are no slouches at these big poker companies. They're sharp people. Most of them are ex-pros from 10, 15 years ago. And I always say to my chat, like, this guy wakes up and for 8 hours, all he's trying to do is catch cheaters.
That's his job.
And then he goes home, right? And there's about 10 of them, and they're sharp guys. Like, they're good at what they do. And they use all the sort of tech and machine learning and social engineering and everything that they can to find cheaters. So I have faith there, but I think you need to communicate that to people. And you often see a correlation to the ethos of a company. And so as a player, that's something that I take a look at. Is this a regulated company, or is this not a regulated company? Party Poker is a regulated company. I have more faith in that than someone where I have to go on their word and there's sort of no oversight. So
I think that's a huge element of trust, right? You get
regulation,
some intrinsic trust just from being, and it's a hard one to get users to even sort of pay attention to, because they don't know. They see an ad for Acme Poker, and then they see an ad for someone that is regulated, and they don't really know which one is which. But which ties back to that education and transparency, and and I think even to the point of how do we show new players that it's just variance when you lose, when your aces get cracked, and you just remember it because it hurts more, right? When they get cracked, so it stands out in your brain. So that kind of education component is maybe something that, and again, it doesn't have to be intrinsic to the platform. It could be through partnerships with companies like Victoria's. We talked to Octopi in the last episode. They've got some great ideas around it. There's others doing it, but tying those two together and sort of making the whole ecosystem of poker stronger and better through that.
Yeah, Jamie, do you think outsourcing, to Warren's point, outsourcing security, game security to somebody trusted like Octopi or GTO Wizard or whoever it may be, versus having that online poker operator kind of hold their cards to their chest because they don't want to quote unquote educate the cheaters or whatever the reasons that they have for not being transparent? Do you think it's a better model to outsource that stuff to some trusted operators?
I think if their tech is more powerful and or they have more data, it's a no-brainer. I think some of the operators have the greatest tech out there, and therefore it's not necessary. But to me, ever since 7-8 years ago, all of the main poker sites have been benchmarking people's performance against theoretically optimal possibilities of poker, right? And if anything's an outlier, it's getting investigated. That's a good first step to essentially ensure that anything that stands out mathematically is getting checked. If you don't have the capability to do that, you should probably find someone that can do that for you. Because I think that's step one, right? Like that's the baseline of security. That's not even getting the people that might be winning at a small win rate and keeping what they do sort of more covered or less obvious.
Right.
So yeah, partner up. If partnering up is going to help your security, partner up.
There you go. Let's quickly talk about some of the things in the software itself that you look for, maybe in the lobby. I know I play some online poker, nowhere near as much as you do, but one of the things I notice is a lobby is either very busy or very clean. And I personally prefer the clean one, but I get why people, we talked earlier about the gamification, and some of the online apps that people are used to playing are very busy. So it's sort of in that model. But I think of, maybe the biggest or one of the biggest online sites, and I try and play on their lobby is just so confusing and busy for an old man like myself, maybe not for a young kid, but I don't know. Yeah. So talk about some of the things that you look for, again, as a pro and an amateur, maybe in the lobby UX and the UI design.
So very, very different between those two groups again, which is kind of the crux of this discussion, right?
Yeah.
For me, I want to be in the matrix. At one point I had 5 screens. It's like, give me every piece of information that I have available here. It's like, give me different time zones. What's the stock market doing? Stuff that's completely irrelevant. I just wanted to see it, right? That's kind of what I like. That's not how I would design a poker site. I think I would have like a lot of the trading platforms. You can click to go into ProView, and it'll give you the stock charts on candles. And
that's interesting, yeah.
I would do the same thing with lobbies, where the default view is very simplified and sort of designed with gamification in mind, right? Like what is going to be the most exciting and interesting way to surface what it is we're doing here, and have the button for what's the most useful way to get all the information. For those people that want it.
That's interesting. Yeah, have sort of a button where you can click to have advanced stats and different things that you're looking for, or different games you can set up. I think you can customize Party Poker and different sites. You can customize their lobby as to what you're looking for, but there might be a way to do it, or an interesting way to do it, where you have a tab for expert, sort of whatever, for a lack of a better word.
Pro move.
Yeah, well, kind of getting back to what we were talking to just briefly about gating content for new users. It's so overwhelming when you pull up a poker lobby in every poker company around the world right now. There's thousands of tournaments, and they're starting every minute, and you're just like, oh my God, what am I supposed to play? I know what I'm supposed to play, but I would really want to gate new users to where you have 3 options.
Yeah.
And we know what those options are based on what your deposit size is. And it's, by the way, going to be a small percentage of your deposit, so that you don't bust your account and in the game mode die within, 2 hours. That doesn't make any sense. So,
well, that's a good point, because if you get a new user sign up, deposits $100, and plays a $20 super bounty tournament, and they don't know what's going on, and they're kind of lost on why they just busted out, or if they don't understand it, then they're having a bad experience, and now they've spent 20% of their bankroll that they've deposited, and they're not happy with the experience. That's an interesting way you can gate the new players.
But I guess one of the challenges with gating the new players, understanding the difference between somebody you've never seen before, deposits the $100 but is not new to poker,
right?
Versus somebody who actually is new and knows nothing about poker, and then that's how do you identify that unique case?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Could you have the ProView button in the same way that you do for a new user? I'm not sure. I do remember, guys, first time going into a casino, I am at a golf tournament. I'm 18, and I have $20, and I'm in somewhere in northern Alberta. And I'm like, all right, I got to go to the casino because this is cool, and I'm 18, and I'm allowed to do that now, right?
Yeah.
And I throw $20 into a slot machine, and I don't know what happened. I don't know how much I bet. I don't know. I don't know if I won. I don't even know if I spun, right? But I went in, And then I booked it out of there, and I was like, that's way too scary. I could have been a slot guy.
Yeah.
But the onboarding was trash. I think we need good onboarding.
That's a good analogy for sure.
Yeah.
Jamie, anything?
Exactly.
Sorry.
If the new user doesn't choose to do the onboarding, then they probably already know poker, right? So if that becomes we can sort of spot them that way and be like, okay, this guy really was taking his time with the onboarding. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Or I wonder if you could even kind of, have an AI program watching how they play. Like if they limp under the gun with, Jack 7 off, maybe you know that they're not an advanced player. But if they muck the King Jack cold under the gun, then maybe you can classify them quickly on some of the way they play hands. Jamie, so is there anything else? So when you're thinking again about this Jamie's Poker site, we've touched on some of the things that we can do as far as the industry goes, transparency, some of the other things. Is there anything that maybe we haven't touched on that you can think about that is different from what's happening and out in the environment, especially with the changing environment that we have?
Well, I think this one depends a little bit with how big of a budget we're working with, right? But let's pretend we've got all the budget, okay?
Okay.
A lot of people think about online poker as like a slightly worse version of live poker. That's not how I think about it. But they're like, oh, this is what I use when I don't want to go to the casino or when I'm just sort of relaxing at home and I have 20 minutes, so I'm going to play here. It's a secondary form for a lot of poker players. For me, I think online poker, because it's digital, has an opportunity to do a lot of things better than live poker does, because it doesn't have to follow the same rules of physics. You can't play 3 live tables at the same time. Online poker, you can. That's amazing. Online poker, you can do progressive knockouts where you can have sort of changing bounty amounts where they increase by pennies over hours to where they're really big at the end. You can't do that in live poker because you can't split up the chips that way. So I would want to keep that design principle in my mind when sort of coming up with the interface for online poker. For example, like the table, something I've had in my head for a while. We have all these little tables, these little boxes that pop up for each table. And I play 6 tables. So I have 6 little screens that I size and sort of put on my... And I've always thought in my head, well, why not just make one space for these 6 tables? And when I have 1 table, it's big. And then when I have 2, it resizes into 2. And then it resizes into 4 in one sort of environment. Those sort of things, thinking outside of the box and utilizing the digitalness as an opportunity is what I'd want to think about when sort of designing and structuring an online poker site.
Yeah, I think that's super important, and that's partly because of some of this. Like, if you look at the way online poker originated in the early 2000s, it kind of copied what was really successful in multiplayer games at the time, like the Call of Duties, the whatever, right? And you saw it, and if you looked at the lobbies, you can literally take a lobby in poker from that era and compare it to, Call of Duty, one of those PvP multiplayer games. They look almost identical. And then they evolved together in parallel right up until around when UIGEA and Black Friday and all of that happens, and then suddenly there's not as much incentive for that online environment to keep innovating and growing, and it stagnates a bit. So I think a lot of what you're talking about, Jamie, is just talking, looking at what is working in other games, other multiplayer modes, and then really, just getting outside of the box that we all kind of are used to and are in online poker, and designing something new.
Jamie, can't thank you enough for your time. Really appreciate your insights. I look forward to following more of your exploits online. Give us a quick plug on, we mentioned Party Poker, but your Twitch stream and all your different social media stuff.
Thank you guys so much for having me. This was a blast. If you guys get the funding for this poker site, let me know. I'm ready. So my name's Poker Staples online, so you can find me on Twitch and YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and all the places if you want to check out some poker. I play online, so you can see those clips, and then I do a live poker tour as well this year, Party Poker Tour. We're going to 11 stops.
Nice.
In the UK and Spain and Ireland this year. So you'll see some clips from that and the debauchery that's sure to follow. So
nice. I'm looking forward to it. I'll definitely follow along, live vicariously through your exploits.
Thanks so much,
amazing.
Jamie.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers. Thanks, Jamie.
Oh, thanks to Jamie for giving us all his insight. Jamie is a legend in online poker and streaming, in social media. He's done it all, and some of the insights there are really valuable, I think, for an operator or anybody out there looking to improve their product, right? And because that stuff, Jamie has his finger on the pulse, and he knows exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah, as a streamer and a content creator, as well as a poker player, and sort of coming up from the beginning that way, and he's not as much of a dinosaur as some of us. So getting that perspective is really, really valuable. Hearing him talk about community in poker and about leading into taking advantage of what live or what online can do that live can't do. I mean, that was really, really valuable insight, and interesting too, that a pretty optimistic view of online poker, and in his opinion, how it was in some ways better than live, right?
Yeah. Originally, we were going to do this in one big podcast with a couple of guests, but we enjoyed the content with each of our guests so much that we're going to break it up into two. So this is going to be episode 1 with Jamie on the player experience and what we can do to improve online poker. And then episode 2 is going to be released with Soheb. And Soheb's a fantastic story. Soheb Parbandawala, for those that don't know, he is a WPT champion and online and live legend. So we're going to do an interview with him, and we're going to release that in a separate episode. And until then, thank you for listening, and we will talk to you soon.
Cheers.